True story. I'm a demon for true stories because I write, as I say, write all my own poetry. There has to be an element of truth in all my poetry. There's a hell of a lot more than an element of truth in this poem. And I call this poem An Unfortunate Experience. I always get in trouble.
We took a great brief vacation.
Now I can remember it. We took a brief vacation. Bloody teeth. They new. No, fair dinkum. I went and had new teeth in and I'll try it again. Right, I think I'm okay. We took a brief vacation to visit a southwest winery, stock our depleted wine rack and enjoy some hospitality. But after a day of tasting in which we sampled everything in sight, we headed to the nearest town to put our heads down for the night. Now, morning came and with it rained as we drove through a wet and windy squall, and my wife stated most emphatically that she had to pay a call. She said we had an early breakfast and I had 5 cups of tea, and 3 long hours have passed since then. And geez, I'm busting for a pee. So we pulled up alongside the track and the landscape we inspected, trying to find somewhere dry where she could do her business undetected. The grassy verge gave way to bush where wild blackberry grew, and with a resigned shrug of her shoulders, she said, "This will have to do." Through grass and fern and soaking bush, she disappeared from sight. Minutes later she rose and screamed aloud, her face turned deathly white. The bushes then erupted, and my shocked expression grew, as from underneath my wife's behind rose a startled kangaroo. Now, he must have hopped inside the bush to catch up on 40 winks, not dreaming he'd be wearing the result of too many drinks. Was then he rose the reason to find of this unwanted intrusion. And when he discovered the source of the watercourse, he must have thought it a bloody illusion. They stood transfixed, both mortified, half paralysed with fear. Old Skippy's nose 2 inches from my wife's protruding rear. I wish I had a camera to record this moment for posterity, but I didn't think that my beloved would appreciate my levity. Then with thump of tail and wave of paw, he took his leave of my shell-shocked wife, and he bolted from that blackberry bush in fear of his very life. Down the bottom he cleared a 5-strand fence with one prodigious leap, and I can imagine his annoyance at being peed on in his sleep. As he bounded over paddock, piddle flying from his pelt, he must have pondered on his misfortune and the hand that fate had dealt. For while sleeping soundly in the bush by the side of a lonely track, you don't expect to be awakened by warm pee all down your back. Meantime the missus charged from the scrub, knickers clinging to her knees, and with flow now stemmed she galloped off to a stand to carry trees. 'Twas there she finished the job in hand, neath the sky so dark and, oh jeez, sky so dark and grey. Then with trembling hands she once more rose and adjusted her lingerie. Geez, I got some competition here. Stay with me, I'm nearly finished. We drove off through wind and rain, my wife still looking pale. Me thinking about me mates. Would they ever believe this tale? I mean, I've heard of up close and personal, but how do I convince them that it's true? The day me missus piddled on that poor unsuspecting kangaroo. Thank you.